Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the ComicBase Livestream. I'm your host, Pete Bickford, and for the next, give or take an hour, give or take, not sure, depending on how much we have to talk about, we'll be talking about ComicBase tips, tricks, and any questions you have on your mind. So please, if you have questions or things you'd like us to address, please post them in the chat to @ComicBase TV, and that'll help us see them in the flurry of comments that's whizzing by on the 15 monitors I've got open here, and I'm trying to make sense of this crazy world of live streaming. All right, which, by the way, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm not actually very good at. But anyway, welcome everyone to the chat. My props to Richard Scott, who first it out there. Welcome. Mike Beam joining us here from Vancouver, Washington, where apparently it's heating up. Fred Slota. By the way, thank you guys for posting in the chat the location thing, because I tried for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes before the thing to get the map graphic pin drop thing going. Was not successful today, but I will try it again in the future. But hopefully it's kind of neat just seeing where people are on the map as you go, and if we get it all working, we can kind of put up a map of the world and people's locations show up as they're talking. But anyway, Fred Slaughter from West Virginia, Tim Gilbreth from Beloit, Wisconsin. I'm an old Madison grad myself here, so welcome. Oro, great joining us from the Twin Cities, of course. Richard from the Pacific Northwest, PDX Portland, something that neck of the woods airport. I forget what it all stands for. Greg Hecht, of course, the moderator's in here, and Greg's joining us from remote. He's on a top secret mission, which, if he wants to, we'll tell him people about later on. But it's very exciting. Ed Billiot here from Richmond, California. Andre, hey, welcome from up in Canada. And so look, yeah, it seems like we are doing okay. All right, so guys, let's get into it. So let me pull up my notes for the show. Sorry, closing windows, closing even more windows. Good God. This is the problem with being a programmer and then trying to do like a live stream, is that whenever you start these things, there's 8,000 windows to close before you even get going. But all right, so let's start. Oh, I'm sorry. And the first note I had for myself was like and subscribe. I feel like I've just revoked my YouTuber license because that wasn't the first tips off the top of my mouth. If you like this sort of thing, that is, please hit the like button and subscribe to it, and that will get you informed of new things as we do it. We're trying to drive those subscriber numbers up because there's a big round number we're very close to, and I'd like to hit it. But anyway, so other things coming up. We are thinking of doing another ComicBase After Dark show, either tomorrow or 1 week from tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific, which is the let your, grab yourself a stiff drink or several, and it's kind of like the let your hair down version of this show, where it's we actually bring you onto the show, and we'll give you the StreamYard key so you guys can join us here, and it's just kind of it's a hang. It's like, just imagine we're all hanging out at, well, first of all, imagine your local comic shop serves booze, but after that, it's just chat about whatever the heck is on our minds, banter back and forth. It's a good time. We did it one time before. It didn't cause the world end. Actually, we went for about 2.5 hours. It was really, really fun time. But I need to know if folks, if tomorrow or a week from tomorrow is better. One thing is really weird, because we are streaming it to Rumble, because we don't want it on Rumble because we want to be able to talk freely and not have our every other word censored by YouTube. But Rumble will not let me schedule 2 live streams at the same time. So the fact that I had to do this one right now kept me from scheduling the live stream for tomorrow. So because it's not official yet, let me know if a week from tomorrow, next Thursday, is better for folks. Just kind of give me a quick heads up in the chat as to how you feel about that, and we will do whatever we got to do. All right, other things going on. The Diamond books this week were delayed. I'm not sure if it was a shipping holiday or whatever it was, but as a result, the week's update, if you're watching on ComicBase, we usually put these out on Wednesday night, right about the time the stream goes live, but it's going to be 1 day late this week, so look for that on Thursday. Other things happening, we are doing a, let's see here, okay, some comments on the ComicBase After Dark. Okay, so cool. Oh, all right. So, hey, our wrench mensch says next week. So if next week works for people, then that's probably, I think we're going to do it. All right. So let's see here. All right. Next on my list, We have formally done the branch to the next version of ComicBase. So ComicBase 2023 is reaching the end of its active development because there's well, every year we, as you might have guessed from the number, there's a new version of ComicBase, and there comes a time when where you want to do very big things with the whole thing that we can't just kind of tweak into the old version. That process has fully started. We have done our first builds of the new one there, and we'll as soon as we crack some infrastructure things that we're working on, we'll be opening those up to kind of like our in-house group of folks who like getting their hands dirty with dev builds. I'll anticipate that coming up in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, if you're still using ComicBase 2023, as we all are, you'll notice that we've gone from running a couple, two, three new builds per day or per week or what however, but a lot of them. We've slowed up the tempo of those quite a bit because a lot of our development effort is now focusing over to the new version because again, there's new things we want to build in that we can't squeeze into the old airframe, and so that's where that's going. So expect things to settle down just a little bit if you've been watching our beta builds. So it's not a bad thing. If there's anything that's important that comes up or anything we need to fix, we will certainly get that out as soon as we need to. But as far as like the kind of tweaky new features that we're always adding in, expect that to kind of taper off for a bit. So just so you know. All right, other things going on. As we branch to the next version, we got an answer to one question that I'd had, which is for the few, and it really, I'm talking about 3, maybe 4 folks who've reported they had trouble with crystal reports on their machines. There was a very particular set of hardware and software requirements required to have any kind of trouble. But when we switched to Crystal Report's 64-bit version with ComicBase 2023, largely we solved everybody's crystal report problems all at once because the 64-bit version was such a massive improvement over the 32-bit version that we'd been using back when we were a 32-bit application. And now there were 4 people though which had reported, hey, I could run the 32-bit version, I can't run the 64-bit version, what's the deal? And it was all things involving, they were running like a virtualized version on their Mac with certain versions of Parallels, blah, I mean, there's a whole set of weird glitchy things that had to be wrong, and it was something probably a registry setting, but they couldn't get the components to register. We have been able to verify for at least one of the folks who had that problem that Crystal Report's latest service pack 33, for those of you who are counting, they managed to fix that problem running under those virtualized environments. So if you're having problems with Crystal Reports on any level, that's the report engine that we in ComicBase and about a million other programs use. We happy to share the link to Crystal Report Service Pack 33. We'll also be building this into the next version of ComicBase automatically, so everyone will get the latest version. Honestly, I looked down the change list. It didn't change a dang thing that I could see having being noticeable on any level by anyone on ComicBase. I mean, the change notes on Service Pack 33 were literally like 2 sentences long. It was the, the most underwhelming change list you've ever seen. But one thing we did find out is that they fixed whatever install issue they had, which was affecting those customers, or at least they seem to have. So happy to shoot that link to people. Just message me after the chat, and I'll get that over to you if you can't find it over on the Crystal Report site, and we'll get that over to you. All right, and then the other thing in terms of ComicBase news is there's an update to ComicBase Mobile that's coming. It's in the works. Unfortunately, every time we switch to mobile development, it kind of takes me off task for about a week because if you guys have ever done mobile development, it is such a process to get things submitted through the app stores and update mobile build systems and everybody else. Where it's like once you've got it all rolling and you're in the swing of it, it's not too bad. When you're switching from your normal development lifecycle to boot up this entire mobile ecosystem on Android and Mac and iOS and the whole 9 yards, it is such a major disruption to life that I got to admit, when I'm in it, I don't mind, but when I'm out of it, I try to avoid contact with it because it's such a, it's such a disruption. But anyway, we are going to take the hit on that one because there's a couple of things we need to address in the mobile app. One of them is there's kind of an oddly come and go strolling issue with lists on iOS, depending on what version of iOS you're running. The lists, we have kind of a infinite scroll going, and so if you pull back more than 50 results and you scroll down to the next one, you get the next 50 results. When you scroll down to the next one, Sometimes you get the next 50 results in line, and sometimes you get the first 50 again. It's something about Mac list management. We have to look back into that one. And the other one is more vexing. To me as a developer, this drives me nuts, is that the Android Play Store, who controls the distribution of all Android stuff in the official world, has made a decision that they want to encourage people to use the latest and greatest versions of the Android operating system. And so, to encourage people, they make it so that if your version supports older versions of Android, like it runs perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with it, and you mark in your app that no, we're happy to support this old version, that they make it after a while that you can't be seen by new versions of devices who go to the app Android store looking for your app. So if you have a brand new sparkling the latest and greatest Pixel phone or something like that with the latest and greatest version of Android, suddenly they're hiding the distribution of ComicBase Mobile from the App Store from you, because we still support much older devices. So, all right. Anyway, there apparently is no way around it, and so for the folks who have very very old Android devices that work perfectly well with iOS, unfortunately, we're going to have to scrim off a few of you in order to keep it so that they keep on showing ComicBase Mobile to the new guys. So that's coming, and probably the next week or two. So look for that, and we'll take it from there. All right, and let's see. That was all the comic-based news I had. Some chat type stuff going here. All right, so it looks like we've got next week for the comic-based after dark is the way that the things are going. So we're gonna be doing that. Fred says, "What new version?" Yeah, no, it's we're on a yearly release schedule. We used to be very much back towards I mean, it's done when it's done, but we were targeting beforehand. It's like our drop dead date in years past has always been Black Friday, because I mean you're pulling into the whole Christmas season there, and if you don't have something new to sell by then, it's like, well, you're going to miss out on a lot of sales. But as we get back into a world that's post COVID, and and kind of getting over our COVID hangover, we're really trying to get back into more of a summer release schedule, or summer or late summer at least. And so as a result, there's a certain point where we're, even though we're always working on the program, it comes time if there's anything big we want to do in terms of changing the program, we need to start switching over to the new code base. And so that switch has just happened. So look for that in the future. We'll keep you all posted. Yeah, friend, Mod says, "Friend, not a dream, not a hoax, not an imaginary story." God, can you tell we are comic book geeks around here? Yeah, okay, so, all right, let's see here. I'm not gonna do the Liam Neeson impression. All right, so let's keep on rolling. All right, okay, so back over to my notes, and let's get into the questions. All right, first one over here, and let me switch over to my other computer here so we can show some of the stuff. Put myself up on keyframe here, and I'm going to try to remember to. The hardest part, I swear to God, one of the hardest parts about doing the live stream the way we're doing it here is there's so many places your attention goes. I've got they call it a confidence monitor straight in front of me on the camera to try to keep my eye line somewhere near where the camera is. I've got different computers I'm looking at from left and right, and then of course I'm using StreamYard now, so it has its own version of what the program output is, which is not the same as the monitor's output, which is why whenever you see that I've got like a Chiron up on the screen, or I've got, I've been talking for a million years and I haven't switched my camera angle, usually it's because I'm looking at the wrong darn monitor. So I'm trying to keep it so I can see what I'm doing and still get this going. So just a little behind the scenes stuff here. All right, moving on to it. So first question came in is, what is the marked field and what is it for? And a little bit of a story on this one. Let me go ahead and switch the control over to this one so I can show it. Um, so the marked field, and let me scroll to the right so you can even see it on this one. It's this guy right way the heck over here. It's this little check box right here, which is just marked. It's just, and if you want, by the way, if you use the marked field lot, really good idea. Let's throw it in here as a bonus tip. Go down to setup, go to columns to view, and move where marked is. First of all, make sure it's checked, but go ahead and move it up in your list. So let me go ahead and scroll this screen down a little bit so we can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to say move marked. Hit that a few times. A few more. Boy, one thing that, on my personal list of things I'd like to get in the future is, wouldn't it be great if there was a way to make it so that there was a drag and drop for this list control? Surprisingly, unbelievably hard to make happen, but, man, if there's a way, I'm gonna see if I can find it. Anyway, so I'm gonna move marked over there so that now when I go to another title and come back, I should be able to see that that marked is moved. All right, so here's the marked field right over there. So what the heck is this thing for anyway? So, I mean, obviously I can check it. I can, and there are even special commands in the menu here where if I choose a bunch of items like this and I come up here under the edit menu, I can choose to mark or unmark the items, and that's a quick way of, Control R, Control U will mark or unmark things. It's a quick way of setting that checkbox all at once. So what's this field for, and why is it special? Why does anyone care? And the reason on this one, let me see if I can switch back. I used to have this set. Nope, it's not. Okay, it's not gonna play with me. I used to have the set so that I could switch on my thing here, and it would drop the keying on me, so I wouldn't have that little inset on top of myself twice at once, but I'm gonna have to clearly revisit that macro. Anyway, the origin of that field, it goes back to the ComicBase 1.0. This thing existed before we had inker fields. This thing existed before we had custom fields. It existed before almost all the other things that weren't writer and artist in the database. And what it was a way to very quickly let you find things in ComicBase 1.0 was for the Mac only, and they didn't have a grid. They didn't have anything that looked like a spreadsheet, really. They just had a big list. And there was a program called TouchBase, which was meant for managing personal contacts. If you guys are old Mac users, you might have used it once about 25 years ago, but it was absolutely brilliant back in the day. It was so elegant because in a world without spreadsheets where you couldn't just reach into the middle of a list and change a value on it, it was very elegant at letting you make selections on the whole thing and quickly say, yeah, these ones are important to me, mark them here, and then I'm going to mix and match my marked fields. And I'm going to print all of my marked records. These are the guys I want to invite to the party, or are the ones I want to send the email to, or the whatever else. And it was just a really elegant way of allowing you to keep selections in the list. And so when we did ComicBase 1.0, we said, man, we are obviously going to steal the best ideas we see from anywhere. And ComicBase 1.0 is also list-based, and so we adopted the invention of the marked field. And it's gone through the various iterations of the program. At one point, you would actually see it as like a little dog ear on those contacts, just to let visually make them pop out a little bit. In more recent versions, it's kind of gotten overwhelmed with custom fields and other things like that we've added over the years, and it's kind of faded into the background as a feature. And so it just became, the one checkmark field, but it's the one checkmark field with suspiciously high prominence in the program. Like, it has its own menu commands for setting it. You also can set it through quick change and mass change and all those other things, just like you can any of the other checkbox fields in ComicBase. But mark in particular is meant for items you find interesting on some level. They might be the books you want to bring to the convention and get signed. They might be the things you want to get rid of. They might be it's whatever it is. They're important to you at the moment, and because they're important to you at the moment, we want to do good. Oh, sorry, wrong monitor. Because they're important to you at the moment, we make it very easy to set and unset the selection. But then once you set and unset the selection on those ones, you'll notice that all the reporting. So when you go and print, any report pretty much on the whole thing, when you print labels, whatever else, list only marked issues is always an option on these guys, whether it's price list reports, labels, whatever else. And so what that lets you do very quickly is it says, all right, look, I've got a certain bunch of comics or a certain bunch of books or whatever type of media I'm using, and I want to again say bring them to the store, get them signed. I want to sell them off. And I could then very quickly print a price list with just those issues. I could, or print any of the other more involved reports. Now, where and also you can export just the marked issues. You can find just the marked issues and so forth. So it's a selection mechanism that has pride of place amongst all the other things in ComicBase, because sometimes it isn't possible to, just in a generalized way say, well, I want a price list report, but I only want it for, you know, things where I want to show just things where they're in box 23 and they've got this, that, and the other thing, and mix and match what fields you want involved in the query and what things you're going to select upon. Sometimes you just can't work that in the database, in terms of supporting it, in terms of like reporting and things like that. So we wanted one field that you always could work in, and it was special. So there are various games you can do. So for instance, let's say I want to print just title dividers from marked titles. By the way, there's not just marked issues, there's also marking for titles themselves. But once you've gone and marked these issues or titles, we want to make it so that you could very quickly, again, just print whatever involved report you've got for them, do special operations and so forth. So that's what that's for, and hopefully you guys will find interesting uses for it. Another thing about it is, in a way, it's the granddaddy of the custom fields, because before we had dedicated fields for just making whatever you want, there was the marked field, which was a thing saying, and all it means is this is important to me for some reason, and marked field sticks around. It doesn't go away in between boots, and it doesn't get updated by content updates or things like that. It's absolutely personal to you. So that's the answer. Okay, let me go back, check the chat, make sure I'm not getting behind on things as I'm getting back and forth here. Okay, Fred says, complimentary with the right click ability to mark and unmark. I think there should be a quick means to search for marked as true somewhere. Yeah, I mean, the way you would do it right now is you would just say, you'd say find item fields, and you'd have to say whether you want the item one or the title one, because there's marking on a title level, there's marking on an issue level. You would just say mark find is checked, go, and it'll find all your marked issues. I mean, it's this may be a click or two more than you might want for that one, but what do people think? That's where we've got it right now. And oh, my poor Mac is just being so slow right now. I'm gonna switch off that one just because I'm embarrassed by how overburdened it is right now. Right now, it's installing a bunch of system updates as well in the background, so it's being pokey. All right, so let's go back to this one. Switching back. Gosh darn it, I really want this thing to switch and drop the key, and it's not going to do it. Okay, I'll just do it that way. Okay. Let's go with that one. Oh, Fred also says, I'd also like the ability when adding by barcode to have an option set marked on added issues. I can only manually add by marking to the adding to the condition. Decent suggestion. So what he's talking about there is, let me go switch it back over to the same one I just came from, which probably isn't going to switch up to. I don't know why. Oh, there it goes. Nope. No, it did on the preview of that. Okay, all right. Sorry, I know what's going on. Okay. Awesome. I just switched my confidence monitor, so all it's showing now is the wrong one. So that's completely messing with my head. All right, excuse me just a moment while I put that back. Okay, excellent. No, okay. Sorry guys, like I say, too many monitors to watch. All right, let me go back to StreamYard so I can see what I'm doing, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so what he's talking about is when you add comics by issue, and so you come up. I'm sorry, look, bad demo form here. Let me go and actually show you the whole thing as opposed to just simply using the command keys that I've memorized. So if you go items, add by barcode, which I always just do as Control-I, it brings up this kind of console over here where you can add things in. And this is how I enter my books every week. Excuse me just a minute. I'm going to do some work. All right, so switching back to the, whoa, what happened to my, there we are. Okay, switching back to the main camera. Let me pop out some comic books here. That's the box I just threw on the floor. Nobody panic. It wasn't the comic books. All right. So a real thing here. Let me just go ahead and wrong one again. All right. Firing up the old barcode scanner here and switching on the whole thing so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so just beeping in some books here. You know, really, really helps if I've got things to the right monitor. Oh, sorry guys. I'm not gonna demo this after all. Oh, geez. All right, so, in every one of these things, there has to be at least one massive demo fail, and this one right here is my wireless barcode scanner is actually the dongle, the thing you hook it into where it puts the input, is actually hooked up to my PC, the one I use all day long. Unfortunately, the thing that, the thing that I'm showing you guys when I'm showing the demo, for things like this, and I forgot to move it before the show, um, is hooked to my Mac. So when I'm beeping in, I'm staring at my PC, I'm beeping the barcode in, and I'm sitting there going, "Wait, why aren't the characters appearing?" And I thought, right, because it's sent them to my PC, not the Mac I'm demoing on. This is a problem that will not apply to you guys. Don't do it at home. Anyway, but anyway, so I won't be demonstrating your very excellent point there, Fred. But the idea of adding marked and when you add things, yeah, no, it's a decent suggestion. We'll definitely give it some thought. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Okay. All right. So, and Steve adds, it'd be really useful when you can scan in multiple types. You go to different types and find them after the mark. Excellent suggestion. That is the use case we've been looking for. All right, guys, I'm sold. We're throwing it in. I'll just give you that commitment now. You've convinced me. Okay, got it. All right, I like it. All right, good to go. All right, let's move back on to the rest of the next question. If I can find out where I put that window. All right, let's see here. Okay, next question was, how can I use find and replace, and why can't I use it for non things that aren't text? Let's talk about find and replace a little bit. So, gosh, sorry, old habits die hard. I used to have it set up so that back when I had a slightly different computer for demoing, I used to have it set up so that I had one monitor on my PC, which was that you guys would get to see, which I would demo the thing on, and the other monitor would be, let me run the show notes, so I could see what the heck I was going to be talking about. Unfortunately, it got too complicated with magnifications and things like that, and things bleeding over edges, and I just couldn't run the show. So when PC went out of my life, I wound up switching to an old Mac Mini. It's like 5-year-old or 6-year-old Mac Mini, which is what you're seeing when I'm demoing over here. It's just we're just running Boot Camp on it, which allows us to run PC software on a Mac. It's a little pokey at times because it's not a great hard drive is the main problem on it. But anyway, just the switching between the two confuses me from time to time. So let's move on. The other thing I was going to complain about is I'm so used to switching between camera one being the front camera of just me, and camera and number four being my second monitor on my PC. It still is the second monitor on my PC. Unfortunately, that's not the one I demo on anymore. Five, Bickford. That's the one you're looking for. All right, moving on. Okay, so you said what's find replace and why can't I use it for text? All right, so let's talk about one of the weirder features, where you could say more awesome features of ComicBase, which is it's a database with find and replace built in. So you find it here under the edit menu, edit, find, replace, or Control H if you're used to it. And what lets you do is it lets you, pick a media type, let's say stick with comic books over here, and then say, all right, well, I want to find, I don't know, let's find all the item descriptions that involve the word foil, right? And let me go ahead and unzoom this down, and let's go ahead and we'll start zipping through there. And so here's the limited foil cover, and if I say I want to change that to the word, I don't know, gloss or whatever the thing is, it lets you do kind of like text change, like word processing type changes to any of the fields in the database and doing word processy type things make any kind of sense for, which by the way is the answer to the other question, which is why can't you do it for things like marked? So if for instance, I could use it to standardize creator names. If I decide that it's Leslie Leslie Lyrics Lee, and I want to, put it as, curved quotes lyrics, and I want to, to spell the whole thing out, not Leslie Lee, not lyrics, not, so it's always going to be Leslie Lyrics Lee. I could actually say, find and replace all Leslie Lees to Leslie Lyrics Lee across all the fields that make any kind of sense in the whole database, and it will do them all. So it's a kind of crazy. It's like a text editor kind of thing to do. Super, super useful when you're doing those kind of changes. There might be, certain things that just everyone's always spelled, card stock is card space stock, and you'd like it to be card stock, one word. And no matter where they put that, whether it's in the notes or where else, no, dang it, I've decided card stock is one word, or barcode is one word, and I'm just going to do that kind of change across the entire database and have it done. You can do it. It's a really cool thing to do, and it's not a normal thing for databases to do for all sorts of reasons, but it winds up, when you're managing a vast, content encyclopedia like ComicBase, it winds up being just crazy useful. But anyway, so that's what it's for. And so you can find it in a particular field, or you can find it. And this one's kind of cool, is you can also say find it in all fields, and replace it with, whatever you want, and then just do, replace, all on the whole thing. You can say whether it's whole field matches, case sensitive or not, and so forth. But yeah, very, very powerful stuff. Definitely give it a shot when you want. And you know, I would say one thing: if you are going to do things like standardizing, like Leslie Lyrics Lee, uh, uh, and I would say really good idea afterwards to do a find, for the work you just did, and submit those all as corrections to us. Because if you do that, then it goes to our editors, and we will, if you're talking about things like standardizing artist names, we are also, that's how we work to standardize artist names. But when you do changes like that, try to send them to us as submissions. First of all, you get points, which is cool. But the other thing is, it will tend to make it into the master database, which then forms the basis of what we send out as content updates. So, it's always good if we get that stuff rolling. And by the way, just to head off a question I know everyone's going to have, we are working on an effort right now to work on some kind of standardizations, essentially building a large encyclopedia of the official name of different creators who have different aliases, or just different ways that just everyone on earth misspells their name, standardizing all the foreign diacritical characters, all, the accents, the whole nine yards. We are working on that, and expect to see more on that in the near future. So, all right, that is that. Oh yes, and a very good point our own Stealth DBA makes is that before doing a find replace for all fields, and I'm gonna say this before you do any kind of mass change like this, have a backup. I mean, hopefully you've got a backup anyway, just because when you exit the program, it saves one for you. But yeah, I mean, don't do something stupid. It's with great power comes great responsibility. And one thing, before you massively blow away, aspects of your data, make sure that it's the thing you wanted to do. Because if it turns out that, find all card stocks and you misspell it as Zard stocks, well, then you gotta change all the Zard stocks to card stocks, or whatever you gotta do. But I mean, it really does make the changes. So, if you want to go back in time, make sure that you've got the ability, just by, having a backup. So, good idea. Let's see. Standardized name spellings in a database. Wow, I'm just blowing people's minds today. All right. Okay, so let's see. What is there anything else in that? And Fred also says, "Fire replace set marked or something, so entries changed." Yeah, these are all good suggestions, man. For instance, if we're going to give the mark to work out on this one, mark the things I just changed. I think that's perfectly reasonable feature suggestion, and so thank you for that. I'm gonna try to do it. All right, and all right, so that is the answer to that question. Let's push on. All right. Okay, so the one thing I did want to say about the question had come in, it's like, well, how come I can't use this for things that aren't text? And the reason is because it's really expecting it to be the kind of fields you could change by just changing letters on the alphabet. You can't find and replace all 15s, 15 dollars or something in the database with $96, and trust me, nor do you want to. But I mean, that's not the way any of this stuff works. But if you did want to, and this one came up, for instance, why can't I find and replace marked? If you do want to make changes across different parts of the database for other things, we do have a number of other ways of doing that. So I mean, obviously, with any particular field in the database, you know, if you want to change it, you know, you can just type a new value. If I think that, you know, the cover on this one here, it wasn't 299, it was 399, I just type 399, boom, I'm done. If I want to say for all these ones down here, it was not 299, it was 399, I could either, you know, type it each one, or better yet, highlight all the issues by clicking on the far left here, come up under here, and where did I put it? Quick change right there. And for those 4 issues, you know, I could set the quantity in stock, or I could set any other field that makes any kind of sense. In this case, let's go to this is so hard to find when it's like magnified like this. You scroll up, uh, cover price right there. Set that to 399 and make changes, and then boom, you'll notice that all these ones here are now 399. You can do those kind of changes. Anything that you can highlight, and by the way, remember, when you're highlighting things, you can click and drag. You can hold down the control key and you know, either click individual items to to set or unset them. You can hold down the shift key to set, you know, ranges when you're selecting. You know, all the standard selection tricks apply, but once you've done that, quick change is the way. If you know, if you want to set something like marked, or you want to set any particular value for these different ones, quick change works perfectly well on these things. And then another field, which another way of changing data in the database, which, you know, again, it's a powerful feature, but it you know, deserves talking about because it's got some real upsides when you need it, and be careful when you don't. It's called mass change. So, and I always forget, I think, yeah, here it is under the items menu. So, what mass change lets you do, and mass change is meant for doing changes across either entire titles, which you can select different titles to do it on, or the entire database. And it lets you blast either a value, or either a particular value or the contents of another field into another field. So, for instance, what you might use this for is, let's say I want to set my selling price, you know, across the entire database. You know, I'm going to set the price to the field, I don't know, cost. You know, I'm just, you know, if I want to sell everything at cost, I could set my price to cost, and then decide whether I round it or not. Or I could say, hey, I'm everything in my database. I'm going to sell everything for $2 each. Mass change, boom, it's going to set 960,000 comic prices to $2. More reasonably, unless you really are having a $2 sale, you might want to do it for things like saying, I want to set, you know, I decide I want everything in my database is for sale. If you pay me the price I want on in the whole thing, I will mark everything as for sale. So I'm going to say set the for sale to the value is checked. And if I hit go, boom, everything in my database will now be marked as for sale. One thing that's also cool about mass change is you can do what we call mathematical mass change. So, for instance, if I want to set the price of everything in the database, I can set it to, again, either a fixed value like $2 like this one, or I can set it to, and let's say I'm going to set to um, its current value, value year 24, times, you know, or, you know, I could plus minus divide and so forth. When I say times 0.75. And what that's saying is set the price to whatever it was worth times 0.75, which essentially means give a 25% discount across the entire database, and round it to a sensible price or not, up to you. So, yeah, you can do things like that. If you do things like this, it will also take into effect grade. So it's not just, you know, doing the near mint price. It's going to be its graded value, you know, for whatever it is. Great way to run sales. So anyway, when you do this, the changes are permanent. So make sure you have a backup ahead of time. It'll of course warn you before you actually do it. Very, very useful, very powerful. Use it rarely. But when you do need to make changes across either vast swaths of titles or across the whole database, nothing like it. All right, let's move on. See how we're doing here. Let me do a quick check of the chat. Let's see if we got. It says I have new comments. Let's see what we got going on. Doop 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 doo. Um, okay, okay, Larry's library says, examples of multiples, yeah, Pascal Ferry changed it to Pascal Ferry, Ernie Shaw became, was Ernie Chan. I knew that. Yeah, that's like one of these weird comic-y facts that I knew and then it went away from my brain. Swear to God. I actually met Ernie Chan at WonderCon many years ago. Sweet guy, really, really good dude. He's really well known as one of one of the more prominent inkers of the Conan books, particularly Savage Sword of Conan. But anyway, yeah, and I forgot he used to sign as Straub once upon a time. Okay, let's see here. Definitely just he points out this was definitely a topic of discussion at the previous Comic Base After Dark. Yeah, now that I think we did about 30 minutes on just going back and forth about name standardization and what can be done and so forth. So yeah, no, that if you wonder where featured ideas come from, they come from things like this that we're doing right now. All right, so let's see. Fred says if adding functions that will set mark, might want to add a pre-operation check more if these are already items marked to prevent contamination from earlier operation. Maybe that's the whole trick with marked is it's meant to be something that it sticks as long as you tell it to stick. But I mean, I guess it'd be curious to see how the messaging works on that one because you don't want to beat people over the head with messages about stuff. Essentially they call it "you dummy" messages. That never goes over well with people. It's like, hey, make sure you don't do this something stupid, dummy. You know what you kind of have to trust people to know the easily foreseeable and not catastrophic results of actions in the program. Like if I select something with the mouse and then I select something with the other mouse, you don't want to have to put an error message up that says, "Well, your previous selection will be gone." I mean, that'd be insane, right? So I guess it depends on the actual use case. You don't want to be too busy, but yeah, it makes sense. All right, so let's see here. Dooba 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 doo. Yeah, and Larry says can't really live stream night. Yeah, I understand. All right. Okay, I think okay, let's move on. All right, let me see what else we got going on. How do I get a report of? And then this question came in as it was the actual question was something like, how do I get a report of, comics worth more than $50? And in that particular case, there are comics, things where you can say like, show me my most valuable items, and and so forth. So there are specialized reports that I'd say before you worry about any kind of custom reporting, always check the standard reports first. To see what you've got going on there because we have added some new ones in previous years, so worth looking at. So for instance, your wanted list is a new report. You used to have to do that as a custom report. Top gainers and losers worth doing. Most valuable items, definitely worth looking at. And you could say like, show me my 25 most valuable, 1,000 most valuable items and so forth. This particular question I think came down to, can you show me anything in my collection that's worth more than $50? Because there was a need. So the way I would go about doing that is I would just do a find. In my case, I'm going to say Control F because I don't want to go through find blah blah blah. But and I would just say item fields would be price. Let's scroll down here. Come on, baby. There we go. Price is greater than or equal to, why not, 50. And more importantly, list only my items because we know all of Action Comics is worth more than that. I want just the things I've got that are worth more than that. So let's go ahead and find those and vamp for a few minutes while the Mac figures that. Okay, so here's 232 items in the phony baloney database we're demoing with here that were worth more than $50. Okay, if I want just this list, right, and I want it as just a nice report. What I would do with this one here is I would highlight one or more items off it, or Control A to highlight them all. And what I would do then is I would go and say Quick Report, which, yeah, if I remember where I kept that. Come on, baby. Oh, I remember where it was. It just right click Bickford. Quick Report, F7. Again, one of the problems is I remember the way I do it all the time, and my fingers have already started the whole thing before I remember what menu is that under. I don't know. I haven't used the menu in 5 years. Anyway, so if you right click and then say Quick Report, What it's going to do very quickly is it'll give you a very nice report of here's all those items, worth more than that. Um, Open question here is to whether or not there should be pictures on this report. That's an item for future discussion and so forth. But yeah, so I'll give it to you in a nice kind of report format. Another way to go on this one, if you don't need an actual report, is never forget that you can also highlight anything you want in here, and even if you just want individual columns or rows, just highlight them. Right click, and Control C for copy, or right click and copy, and then you can just open up something like Excel and just paste, and it'll give it to you in a very nice, tabular format like that. Which then, if you just want to, take a list of those ones here, send them off to your insurance agent. And I think, there we go. Um, you can, send that list to him just like that as an Excel file, and he's good to go. But that's probably how I would address that issue. There are other ways to go, but that's probably how I would do it. Right. Let's see. Other questions that came up here. Dibba-dibba-dibba-dibba-doo. Uh, Larry says, I wish I could have some standard templates come up for adding specific types like marble omnibus, for example. Tell me more. I'd be interested in knowing more about that, about what you're thinking on that one. Curious about that. I don't. Yeah, I'm going to need more of a picture for where you're at on this one. Again, it's I realize it's late at night, but this is great discussions if you ever join us for the Comic Base After Dark. Steve says, refining pictures for items for reports. Can you display Comic Base statistics and how you can click on the displayed list at the bottom, display a set, and then do a quick report on them? Sure. Yeah, that can be done. So for instance, let's say I want to go and let's get rid of this one here. Going to close this one, and let's go over to and we don't do a good enough job on demoing this one in the program when you first get Comic Base and you don't know anything about using it yet. This is a function that we got to find a better way to make this known, because a lot of people don't go poking around in menus to see what a program can do and so forth. And for reasons, it's one of these things where like it was a perfectly good place to put it in Comic Base 1.0, but I almost feel like there ought to be a different place for this later on. Maybe we got to move it under reports. Maybe that's the answer, because it's not exactly a report. It really is a file function, because you're talking about what's in a particular file. So I mean, again, reasons, but collection statistics, or F12, is probably my number one way of getting any information about a particular database. So if I'm even like opening up a strange database for a customer's database, and they want to know, hey, is this got my current data in it? It's the very first thing I'll do is I'll check the collection statistics on this. I won't run reports, won't do any of that. I'll pull up the collection stats and say, well, okay, 304 grand. Does that sound about right? It says you've got 58,355 comics. Does that ring a bell? And then you instantly have got the scorecard on your collection like this, and you can break it down by your entire collection, your books, your magazines, whatever else. So for this phony baloney, database we're showing right now, it's the entire collection value is about 308,000. Let's look over to the comic books over here, and that one, give it a second to retotal. 304,000. And one thing you'll also notice down under here is you can also have the option of showing the breakdown of that thing by lots of different things: by condition, by cover price, by country, mature readers only, by publisher, by tags, if you define tags, comic type, values, and so forth. And the one he was mentioning here was something like era. So in this particular case, in this one here, like, let's see all the Atomic Age comics that we've got going on here. So if I go and I double click on that one, it's actually going to bring up the list. Now, on this one right here, whoops, let me get out a magnified vote so I can see what I'm doing. All right. Now, on this one right here, one thing that we do in Comic Base a lot is we fudge kind of a pretty important line. Is we fudge the line between title-based items and issue-based items. And some things can be reported in different ways, and some can't. So when I say show me all the comics I've got by era, in my collection, it's bringing up the titles that were, that were in those the different era that exist in my collection. So when you do something like this, again, the standard rules apply in terms of copy paste and things like that. But and if I want to do like a quick report on this one, I'm going to get something like that. Yeah, so yeah, that one did not come off. Title-based reports typically are not quick reportable because they work differently. It's something that we're thinking of messing around with a little differently in the future. Um, if I were to go and pick something that's issue based, on the other hand, which where the thing that comes out is a list of individual issues, not a list of titles, then I can do more with them because the fields I need to do that kind of reporting exist. There isn't right now. There isn't a quick report for titles. What you'd have to do there is one of the select a bunch, copy them, paste them into wherever you want to do, and look at them that way. Um, yeah, it's worth considering. We might build a title based quick report in the future, but let's pick something that's issue based. So, for instance, let's look at say cover prices. And here's all the comic books I've got that are 25 cents. Right, it's a weird breakdown, but it can be done. All right. At this point, what I'm getting back, you'll notice, and the giveaway here is that they come back with their pictures and they're listing individual, issue numbers. Anything like this can be quick reported on. And one of these days, I'm just going to start using F7, and it's going to come back here and so forth. So yeah, that's where that is. We're looking into whether we want to build out the quick report a little more in future versions. Let us know what you think. Definitely, join us for like the Comic Base After Dark as you go, and let's talk more. All right, let me see what's going on else here in the chat. Okay, some tips back and forth. Okay, and Larry says, for instance, all Marvel omnibuses are hardcover. Most have a retail and direct market. There are no soft covers. Never know how to answer the process. Add new ones, buy a lot of omnis. Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's something worth thinking about. I don't have an easy answer because it's gosh, man, we cover so many darn comic books at this point. It's so easy for me to think of counter examples. Not necessarily if you narrow it down to just omnibuses, but like for instance, for 100 years, Marvel Masterwork editions were all hardcovers. And so, is there some way I could, I don't know, simplify the ability to add hardcovers somehow? Just always assume that Marvel Masterworks is going to be hardcover. Is there not? Um, up until recently, I just say, yeah, maybe, but then you walk into Barnes and Noble the other day, and suddenly there exist as soft covers, and and sometimes there's soft covers with Barnes and Noble variant covers on them. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know, maybe I'd have to think on it. The other thing about it is, you know, most of the time, and it wasn't always true, but it should be more and more if, you're ever I mean, our editors have kind of taken on most of the burden of that kind of, issue entry most of the time. I mean, uh, there were at some points some things where we wouldn't necessarily get the solicitation from a different particular channel about a particular comic or omnibus or so forth. There were times, especially in the past, where you guys would know about a book before we did because it was like the 17th printing of a trade paperback of something else like that, and it didn't come through the normal diamond channels. That's less and less the case. The vast majority of times when you go to enter things like that, unless you just kind of beat us on the fly when a new lunar or diamond thing comes back, our own editors will largely have kind of taken care of that problem, because they've already ended, they will have already added the book themselves, and we have massive discussions behind the scenes around these sorts of things about like, well, okay, we got a new line of blah blah blahs coming out, and how should we class those, and what should the naming convention be, and things like that. So we handle as a matter of editorial style in house most of the time. But that being said, never say 100% on anything, and to the extent that you guys are ever find yourselves entering your own books on things, certainly we want to make this as easy as we can for you. But yeah, to be continually discussed, I think is probably the answer to go on that one. All right, let me see here. Let's see here. ComicBase TV, Bravo, all periodicity options in newspapers, but have one. There's one not covered. So all right. So you guys, if you're talking about periodicity, so how frequently something is published, and there's a surprisingly large variety of times a week, month, day, year, etc. that you can publish something. There's things like twice a day for morning and evening newspapers. There's every day but weekday. There's weekdays. There's every day but Sunday. There's whatever else. And sorry, we apparently missed one. That is a paper not published every Thursday and Sunday. Oh my goodness gracious me. Ora, what paper is published every day except Thursday and Sunday? Because you know what? If that's a thing that happens, then it's probably something we'll try to make easier to enter. But let me know what paper that is. I'm not familiar with the paper that is not published Thursday and Sunday. And goodness gracious, I hope that if there's a paper like that, I hope that there isn't also a paper that isn't published every Tuesday and Sunday or Tuesday and whatever, because that I think would not be supportable. But if Thursday and Sunday skip publishing is a thing, then well, let me know. We'll figure it out. But so once you know the periodicity of a paper, newspaper, things like that, we're adding in the features these days. So I can say, here is the Willamette Gazette. It was published, from 1793 till 1814, and it was, published, Monday through Friday, and it started date on this particular day of publication. So when you actually say, create me issues 1 through 7053 of the Willamette Gazette, it'll automatically increment your cover dates as appropriate to fit on all the appropriate dates and take a bunch of the work out on the whole thing. Um, and Oro says the old Minnesota frontier papers. Sunday was church and Thursday was market day. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man, drop some examples on me. I gotta know more. But and if anyone else knows, are there any other local customs where that there are other skip days that are common? I was just like, wow. Okay. Ed says, what are your thoughts on being able to save and or print the graphs and pie charts found in the ComicBase statistics window? Um, I gotta say I haven't given any thought at all. Yeah, I don't know. Let me, whoops. Yeah, sorry, on the wrong monitor. Let me switch over here and let's have a look. So when you're going to this guy right here, and I'm pulling up my ComicBase statistics again, gathering database, or collecting database information. Come on, kick it out. Oh my goodness, I got to get a faster hard drive on this poor thing. It makes my demos look bad. So there's a number of graphs you can kick out. You come with a breakdown of here's all the different cover prices and so forth. Here's the collection breakdown by cover price. Here's there are other things like that. This is not a report. It's not printable. I guess if I wanted to print this, the way I would do it is I would literally just hit print screen and paste it into Photoshop and print. The reason I would do it that way, and this is, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's, I'll put it this way, if there was a lot of interest in having this thing be directly printable, we'd probably find a way to make it happen. The reason it's not directly printable is because kicking off the report engine to print a screen-based graphic like this is a pain in the tuchus. It's the same reason that I mean, in a way, I think you could make the same arguments as, well, what if I want to print this right here, right? So, I mean, when you say I want to print this list right here, when we give you like a print or a preview button on it, what we have to do is we actually have to come up with a lovely report for it, because we're not just printing you the contents of what you're seeing on the screen. We're trying to say, well, look, what you really meant by print here is I want to be able to print the nice version of not just what I can see on my screen, but all the things that fit into this different thing. And That's hilarious. Yeah, that's right. I do apparently own at least one thing that has a cover price of $2,500. I wanna say it was some indie guy who just did that as a gag price. It was, because the book itself is worth like a buck 75. But I think one of the indie creators said, "Yeah, the cover price, $2,500." And he later put a sticker on the whole thing, let people know that, no, it's really a buck. Um but anyway, but yeah, back to the original thing, like, I guess there isn't like a generalized print, like in the program for like, just print whatever screens on the whole thing. It's all about reporting the whole thing. And the same metaphor kind of carries across, unfortunately, when you get to like a pictorial graph like this, is we typically, yeah, there isn't like a straight print built in. Maybe there should be, I don't know. Yeah, tell me what you think, guys. I mean, if it were me and I wanted to print this, I would probably just, like I say, do a screenshot, paste it into Paint or something else, and hit print. But if there's an urge to make this printable, yeah, I mean, everything can be done. It's all a question of you know, does it give you guys bang for the buck? Like for instance, database info, right? Here's an example of something which, I can view it, but I can't really print it. So if I want to get just a printout of this, the way I would do it is I would just literally screen cap the whole thing and print the screen cap. Not everything lends itself very nicely to a report, that you'd ever want to see displayed in the program. Quick report fills a lot of holes, but as we point out today, there's some gaps. Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, let us know what you think. All right, well, guys, I gotta say, I'm getting talked out. I appreciate you. I hope we answer some questions for folks, and we get to there. Our motto to remind everyone as we get close to the 60-minute mark. I'm just going to go ahead and read off right here. We have a dedicated thread on the ComicBase message boards where you can request topics. Please let us know, and I guess we're going to shoot for next week at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific time for the ComicBase After Dark. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to basically, if you're interested in it right now, please go ahead and shoot a note to, and let's see if the graphic works. Yes, there we are. pbickford at human-computing.com. That's me. Send me a note, and I will send you a stream invite on the whole thing. If anyone lets me know ahead of time. And then at showtime, we'll also make it available on the website to anyone else. Where basically just make sure your webcam is working. Grab yourself a drink, and we'll all just do a big, a big hangout, and talk about whatever you want. We have some ideas for things that have been on people's minds that whether I talk about them or not, they're going to come up, and just topics of interest just in the world or in other places. And we'll take it from there. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.